All right, for those of us that are following along, watching the movie at the same time, get ready to press play in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we immediately are at the Warner Brothers logo. And fun fact, this is the first of two Batman films to where the actor that is playing Batman is actually not credited first. The first person that's actually credited is Jack Nicholson, who plays the villain Joker, and Michael Keaton comes in second. Now, some people may wonder what that is, why that is. I mean, I remember as a kid, or even as an adult, I was even wondering why that was. Because Batman's the main title character. I mean, is it based off of screen time or whatnot? Plus, we all know that in the previous films, in the older films like these here, where the villains just get so much attention pointed onto them, it almost seems like Batman is a secondary character. But no, it's the actor that gets top billing. In other words, the actor that makes the most money. The other film to do this was Batman and Robin, where Arnold Schwarzenegger got top billing, and George Clooney obviously was second highest billing. I remember reading that reading or hearing that George Clooney got like 5 million for that film, and Arnold got 20. And the thing is, despite the fact that George Clooney was always a better actor than Arnold, with all due respect to Arnold, but Arnold was just way too big back then. But anyway, we're getting into this now, into Batman 1989, which is, despite the fact that there's a few things about the lore that are not exactly accurate as far as comic books go, I still have to say that this is my overall favorite Batman film, despite all that. And despite me being picky about all that, because there are a lot of things even this film is missing, especially about Batman, like the detective element and a few other things as well. But the tone of the film and Jack Nicholson's charisma in this film, I mean, the man probably didn't even know he was being filmed. That's how good he was in the role. As well as just the way, like, the cinematography, the score. I mean, I can't really describe it. There's just some sort of feeling you get from this film that still holds up very well to this day, with all due respect to any other Batman film, whether live action or animated or whatever has been made. This is probably my favorite one. I mean, really, it really is. And it's also because I grew up with it. The first time I saw this film, I was like 5, 6 years old. And it stuck with me then, and it still sticks with me to this day. I still like to come back and to watch it, and it's like, yeah, let's do a commentary. And back before this film, the Batman that people were familiar with was the Adam West interpretation, right? People thought that it was, campy and all that kind of stuff and lighthearted. And then from the very beginning of this film, from the credits, from the Warner Brothers logo up until the end credits and stuff like that, you immediately get the feeling that that's not going to be it. And it's absolutely true. This was the first dark Batman film. And on top of that, I believe, in terms of, like, not counting inflation, of course, I think this is, to this day, the highest grossing Batman film, I think, domestically. If I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was worldwide, if those numbers count for worldwide, but this film was pretty much everywhere when it came out. It had such a huge impact, and rightfully so. And at the same time, Tim Burton wasn't given like 100% full freedom. As a fan of Batman, I say thank goodness. Now, I'm going to mention Batman Returns briefly. Like, obviously, Batman Returns, Tim Burton was given complete 100% freedom, and you could tell in everything. It just looked more, quote unquote, Halloween or whatnot, if that makes sense. Like the holiday Halloween or whatnot, with like some of the other films that Tim Burton has done. Like, there was a lot of, I don't know, it almost felt like in terms of what you were seeing, it was like Batman in Edward Scissorhands world or something like that. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm not sure. But I mean, as good as the cinematography was in that game, but this one here, like, for instance, this shot right here where you finally get a glimpse of Batman before he makes his appearance behind these guys, which was one of my favorite shots in the film. when he like that shot of the overhead of Gotham City was like, it reminded me a lot of the Batman animated series, which is absolutely amazing. And it's one of the things I love about HBO Max, for instance. You know, they've got the entire Batman animated series and a whole bunch of other Batman animated stuff, but so do some of these other streaming services. But with that being said, it's Batman's appearance here in the background is, as you're about to see, like just perfect. I mean, look at that. Coming down super slowly and everything. It's like, yeah. And remember, back in the day, like people were really, really skeptical and didn't agree with Michael Keaton's casting. But in this film, just like Heath Ledger would do years later, he ended up basically proving everybody wrong. And just because somebody's known for comedy, which what Michael Keaton was known for back then, doesn't mean that you can't do this, you know? And yeah, and he definitely showed it. And I actually like the suit in this film quite a bit. The Bat logo has a little bit of a mistake on it, but it's a very small thing. But other than that, I really like this suit. And speaking of the suits, which Batman suit over the years of all the films did you guys like the most? I really want to know, because you know, they're obviously all like the same in terms of what they're supposed to do overall from a look standpoint and a performance standpoint, but at the same time they're all very different. So it's like, which iteration of the Bat suit have you guys liked the most up until this point? And yeah, despite the fact that he's not the biggest, the tallest, or the most muscular and stuff like that, he would still scare the shit out of you. And it was all with the eyes too, because that's what Michael Keaton did very well, was with the eyes. He would be very intimidating with those eyes. And even in some of the scenes in this film, when he's Bruce Wayne, you know, when he's not wearing the suit, like towards the end of the film, when he's looking at he's looking at the Joker, you know, when he's on live TV or whatnot. Those eyes are very much there. It's like if you could like not pay attention to everything else and you look at the eyes, you'd be like, yeah, that's Batman. He's got that look. And that's something, you know, the voice and the look he still has till this day. And in the suit, and I saw the Flash trailer recently, obviously the newest one that came out, and he looks great. And I'm very much, he's the big reason why I'm looking forward to that film. But yeah, there's always going to be a special place in my heart for Michael Keaton's Batman. And over here we got Billy Dee playing Harvey Dent, which I'm sad that is like, especially as an adult now, since I get it more, that we didn't see more of him in this film, you know, because Billy Dee is just such a stud, and he's got like this swag about him, and he's got the style, and yet so does Jack. And in Jack Nicholson, obviously, like he obviously steals every scene he's in this film, everything, even when he's just doing something like that's almost like nothing. He just, you know, there's just something in terms of the way he presents himself and the way he talks and the sheer confidence that he has on screen and everything like that. And he it really resonates really well. You know, when an actor doesn't have to speak words in order for you to be interested in about the character like that, that's a sign of a good actor. And Jack made like 60 million off of this film. And that wasn't his salary. I think he made it like by gross or something like that. Something along those lines. But yeah, Jack did an incredible job in this film. And it's actually pretty cool how you get to see what he was like before he became Joker, and then you know, when he became Joker, it's like all let loose. And there he is with the suit and everything like that. And she's like, you look fine. And he's like, I didn't ask. Man of confidence right there. Sleeping with his boss's girlfriend or whatever she is, or wife or whatever. I don't know. But yeah. And this poor guy is, yeah, I don't think he'll be doing any crime again anytime soon. So, and of course the cops know about this guy. about Batman, the 6-foot bat, so to speak. And Robert Wuhl, you know, as Knox, who I believe is a character that's not in the comics, that was made specifically for this film, if I'm not mistaken. And Robert Wuhl doing what Robert Wuhl does, but at the same time, he doesn't really he doesn't break the film at all. He adds a little bit of comedic relief here and there, but done rightfully so, because it doesn't take away from the tone of the film. And if you look at the cinematography and everything, I mean, really, Gotham City is basically dark and it's a mess, and it's, you know, they definitely got the look right of Gotham City, especially back then in 1989. So, yeah, he's yeah, it's all the characters in this film do pretty much a good job. Obviously, there's always going to be a few weak links here and there, but here we go, corrupt cop in Gotham City at best. And there's Jack Nicholson, Jack Napier, aka the Joker, soon to be. He's basically number 2. You know, he's the head of John Grissom's men, and John, I don't know if his name is John, but he's the head of Grissom's men, and he basically ends up kind of, you know, taking over and whatnot. But so yeah, they basically show a ton. Like this basically says a lot of that. And then of course you got the cop, of course, who thinks is, you know, he thinks he's a shit, but yep, he's like, I answer to Grissom, not to psychos. Yeah, he doesn't like it. And I guess Jack Napier is still known to be a little nuts. But obviously when he became the Joker, it was 100%. And obviously, you know, his, like Bobby, like his number 1 henchman or whatnot, is obviously very, very loyal to him. And he answered the call specifically right there. It's like, you know, where have you been spending your nights? And again, they just the look of Gotham. Like most of the time when you see it, it's always dark. I mean, it's almost like you know, it's like there's never a day. Like whenever you see scenes that are in daytime, you never see like the blue sky. There's always crowds, and there's always clouds, and it's always overcast, and it almost looks like it's getting ready to rain all the time. And again, it really sucks that we didn't see enough Billy D in this film and didn't give him more to do, but it is what it is. And of course, you got the whole reporter sense of humor in this scene, especially right here. Have you seen this man? Reminds me of Deadpool in a sense. Have you seen this man? And then of course you got the bat that actually looks like a bat, and it's in a man's suit. And then, of course, you get Kim Basinger. I mean, Basinger. I've always gone back and forth in terms of like how I pronounce her last name. And she plays Vicky Vale in this film. And my goodness, she is, yeah. Kim in her prime, my goodness. And she's got the glasses going on and stuff like that. But again, she's Kim Basinger. I mean, she's as far as the looks go, she does her job in this film, and definitely it's hard to keep your eyes off of her when you see her in this film. And this is coming from a man that's not even like that normally prefers brunettes over blondes. Of course, there's exceptions here and there, of course, but it's hard to keep your eyes off her, you know. And I'm a fan of also Nicole Kidman in Batman Forever, but I like Kim's Vicky Vale more than Nicole's Chase Meridian. And I'm not talking about the acting. I'm talking about in terms of overall like absolute stunning. And Nicole Kidman is like in her prime in Batman Forever. That woman is like, you know, top tier. But I don't know, there's just something about Kim that just stood out for me. I don't know what it was. But and I think she's taller than Michael Keaton in this film. if you don't count the ears on the cowl. And of course, now you basically, like Harvey Dent is cracking down on the bosses, and the man right here, the main man in charge, is very not happy at this point. And you see all the main guys that are basically running Gotham as far as the crime side is concerned, all in this one room. But little does Jack know that he's being set up. All because of the fact that the boss knows that he's been sleeping with his woman, or his squeeze, as Joker would normally like to say. Could be married, but... And now the thing is, the audience could actually speculate of whether or not he knew that before that gaze or whatnot. So, because when she looked over his way, it's like, did Grissom find out right then and there from that alone that they've been sleeping together, or do you think it was beforehand? Maybe it's up for the audience to decide. But as you see in the scene here, he already wanted Jack to go in, like in person, to take care of this job for him beforehand. And, you know, he didn't want to do it. And he's like, no, you got to do it. And he says it in the nicest way, too, for a boss that's in charge like that, you know. Jack Palance, of course, you know, believe it or not, Jack Palance has a swag about himself as well. Yep. Being set up, calling Lieutenant Eckhart. And it goes from there. Now we're into Wayne Manor, and there's like this charity party going on or whatnot. And, you know, Bruce, of course, has his own casinos and all that kind of stuff set up over there. He's got a casino room and everything. So definitely the house of a billionaire playboy when you look at this aspect of it. You know, granted, you don't see too much Bruce Wayne in here. A lot of people are giving Patton a lot of shit for not being different from Bruce Wayne and Batman, and you know, because there's three characters. There's a Bruce Wayne that Alfred and the people he loves that know, and then there's the Bruce Wayne that the public knows as the billionaire spoiled playboy or whatnot, right? And then there's Batman. So in this film, it's like there's two or maybe just one. I mean, so and at the same time, it's what the script limits the actor to do, but at the same time, you don't see too much of a difference. You know, you don't see Bruce Wayne out in public acting like kind of a spoiled dick or whatnot. He's kind of the same overall. Like there's two in this film, not one. There's two. There's just regular old Bruce Wayne, and I guess everybody sees him the same way. And then there's Batman. So, and obviously he can't take his eyes off Vicky Vale, and I sure as hell don't blame him. Blonde in a white dress, go figure. And earlier she was wearing black. It's like, yep, this woman looks good in both black and white. And you've even got the commissioner of the police on the crap table or whatever. And of course Knox is there, and he's trying to get news stories and shit. So, and Commissioner Gordon is denying the bat. And obviously it's known at this point that Batman just basically operates alone, and he's got nothing to do with the cops. At least not yet. So he's seen as a criminal at this point, so, or a myth even. You know, it's like, at this point it's like a mystery, and you know, for the cops as well as the reporters and everything else. So, yeah, the anonymous tip about Napier cleaning out Axis chemicals obviously came from the big man himself, so he's being set up. And the cops know that Eckhart is either corrupt or just not good, probably corrupt. But they can't, if there's no way to prove it, then, it's all about, it's not about what you know or what you think you know. It's about what you can prove. So, and just that alone, they suspect that he's dirty, and they're right. And then this room is really cool, where Bruce Wayne has a lot of his like collections and stuff like that of all the armor and stuff. So I think this is the same house that they filmed Richie Rich in, I think, if I'm not mistaken, as well as maybe some other movies or something like that to where they use this house. So absolutely huge. It's like, what would you do with a house like that? And then this one over here is Japanese. How do you know? Because I bought it in Japan. Who are you? Oh, Bruce Wayne. And that's funny, Bruce Wayne being the big billionaire of Gotham, you would think everybody would know him, but see, that's again right there. You can't give Patton shit, or unless you give Michael Keaton shit, because again, nobody knows. But at the same time, it's not the actor's fault. It's the script. And that's one of the things that this movie, I'm going to call out the mistakes that it makes as well. It's like everybody is, nobody knows. It's like nobody knows who Bruce Wayne is. Like, a reporter wouldn't know who Bruce Wayne is. Of course they do. 6 cases of champagne. Yeah, so Batman is just a story at this point. And here comes Alfred. So unexpectedly, Commissioner Gordon is leaving. And that just, doesn't that kind of give you a hint? Like, why would Bruce Wayne want to know why Gordon is leaving all of a sudden? This should have been done a little bit better. And of course, Knox gets his grant. But no, it should have been done better. I personally would have rewritten the script where it's like, Master Wayne, a word with you, please. That's what I would have done. And then they would have had a discussion in private. More private. So, because if I was a reporter like these two guys or whatnot, I would have been curious immediately. Like, immediately curious. Like, what? What's up with that? It's basically like a hint of like, almost like a hint like, hey, maybe this guy's a little bit more than he seems. And then, of course, you get the first shot of the Batcave in this film with all the different screens. Kind of similar to a gaming setup in a sense. I mean, with a lot more TVs or monitors in this case, but other than that, it's basically a gaming setup. But remember, this is 1989, so very sophisticated for back then. As a kid, it made me want to get multiple TVs and just set them up all over the place. And just have different shit playing on each one of them. And the whole glasses thing is interesting too, because Bruce Wayne doesn't wear glasses, but for some reason in the movies he does. And with Eckhart over here already saying that he answers to Grissom. So, definitely not siding with Jack on this one. And it's just in a few seconds they realize that they're being set up at this point. Well, they've been ratted out, so to speak. But Jack already knows, as you'll find out later on, that it's uh, you know, he suspects it's the main boss. It's like, who else could it be? Couldn't have been Eckhart. And here comes Gordon and crew. Are they gonna? He wants to take over because he doesn't want that guy to. Hey, look at that! I'm in charge, not Carl Grissom. That just goes to show right there. It's like, yeah, I know you're corrupt. And they want Jack Napier alive because I guess they want info from him. But the question is, would Jack talk? Probably not. Now, it was mentioned that he's cleaning out Access Chemicals, but like, I mean, were they like, if Jack was wanting to destroy Access Chemicals, it's like, well, why couldn't you do it the old-fashioned way by dynamite or something? I don't know. Just one of the few things in film that don't make sense, but at the same time, there's so many things about films that don't make sense. And this is a cool scene right here. Batman shows up and bam, gets the guy around the throat, and then bam, hangs him by the neck right there. Like, it went around the neck, but obviously, I mean, shouldn't he be dead? He was hanging by his neck. Shouldn't that guy be dead? And at this point, it's pretty much confirmed that Batman is not a myth. He's not a story. It's the real thing. And you know what the funny thing is? Gordon said earlier, if anybody opens fire on Jack Napier, they have to answer to me. So it's like all the cops are trying to shoot his ass. Bam. Back fist to the face. Yeah, Batman's really doing a good job of just staying out of sight. Look at that right there, right behind Jack. And of course, he's looking for a way to get out. He sees a way. And if you look at the way Gordon talks to his talks to his men, it's like he actually cares about him. Compared to Eckhart, who's like, move it, move it, move it, you know, move it, man. And Batman pretty much saves Gordon actually at this point. And Jack's never seen a bat that's about 6 feet tall before. And right now, Batman's got no choice but to let this guy go, or else Gordon is toast. And it looked very believable that he was holding him up that high as well without, you know, without hardly using any strength. So it's like right there, they do a good job of showing that even though he's not that big, especially compared to how Batman is also written in the comics or in some other iterations that we've seen that are not Michael Keaton. You know, I mean, granted, we didn't see a bigger Batman until Christian Bale, and then obviously Batfleck was probably the biggest we've ever had, because Ben Affleck is like 6'4", and he put on muscle for the role. So, like, not all about the size, and yet he's still strong. And then Eckhart goes down thanks to the Joker, and then bam, Batman shows back up again and deflects the bullet, and it gets him in the face. And then he goes down, and he holds on, and Batman looks like he's gonna help him up. And then he changes his mind and drops him right into the vat of chemicals. Now that they see Batman, they are going to try to take him in, but that's not going to work. Got a little classic Batman over here. This is a nod, of course. I think anybody could approve. You got your smoke, and then you get out of there with the back grapple and call it a night. So still very much a mystery, but they got to keep it under wraps because they don't want the story of the Batman to be a thing, especially since he's a vigilante that goes beyond the law. And it's revealed right there in horror movie fashion that obviously Joker survived, but he's not going to be the same. Or that Jack survived, but he's not going to be the same. As you can see by the hand rising rising off of the water. And of course, you got Vicky Vale and company trying to figure shit out. And then Knox is obviously, you know, absolutely in love with this woman. And Vicky Vale's already got a date with Wayne. Would have been nice to see exactly how he scored a date with Vicky as well, but I guess the audience is up to assume at this point. And look at the size of that table. You got him all the way on the other side, and you got her right there. I don't know about you guys, but if I was there, I would have been sitting like next to her as opposed to, you know, I'd be sitting at the chair that's closer. As opposed to the other way around. As opposed to like the way they're doing it now. That really is one big ass table. Or one long ass table as well. A little bit of comedy right here from Michael Keaton. Yep. So the like from this moment alone, it's a little bit more organic at this point. Like getting out of there and going into the basically like what looks like the kitchen or whatnot. Alfred's story, of course. And you get a glimpse of course, you get the Bruce Wayne that we all know, and that Alfred knows. But he still kind of tries to hide a little bit of it. So to an extent, I guess there is, maybe I was wrong, maybe there is like 3 or whatnot, but he said, you know, as the billionaire playboy, he says he couldn't find his socks without Alfred. You know, kind of referring to him as a butler, like, yeah, I need him or else I wouldn't be able to find my socks. But obviously, you really know Bruce Wayne, obviously there's more to it than what that was said. Because Bruce would actually truly be lost without Alfred. Alfred is the one that keeps Bruce on the good guy side, honestly, because if you think about it, one of the things that has always intrigued me about the Batman character is that if he were to lose his shit, he could be, you know, one of the most scariest villains ever. You know, even to the point where even Joker would not be happy about that, because, you know, Joker needs Batman to be where he's at and to do what he's at. And then, you know, I don't think he'd be as happy. I don't think the Joker character would be as happy if he wasn't going up against Batman. It's because that's how it's supposed to be. But honestly, though, I mean, Superman in the comics has been quoted by saying that Bruce is the most dangerous human being alive, and this is coming from an alien from Krypton that is pretty much indestructible 99% of the time, and even when he gets destroyed, he can still come back. So it's like, when you got that guy saying that Bruce Wayne is the most dangerous human being on the planet, it speaks volumes, you know, and thank goodness for Alfred, because Bruce could have easily lost his shit at any point in time in his life and basically had decide to just go bad if he wanted to, or if something set him off. In terms of the Batman character, I'm not necessarily referring to this film, but I'm referring to the Batman character. And the scene over here is everything that the doctor had to do to, I don't know, get Joker to at least look halfway normal. And now he basically can't stop laughing. And Jack's laugh is basically like huge in this film, like, and multiple times. I mean, and the amount of energy to laugh like that when it's not natural, I don't know. Or who knows? Maybe Jack might have thought of funny shit and made himself legitimately laugh. Who knows? And yeah, on the second night that he's seen her, first one being with the event, she's a little tipsy from the wine or whatever, and yeah, she's gonna give it up. So yeah, Bruce Wayne, even though he's not exactly the billionaire playboy 100% of the time like that, it's, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm really conflicted in terms of what I said earlier. It's like, are there three sides? I don't know. Sugar bubs, that's what he calls it. Sugar bubs. Sugar bumps. Yep, and at this point, yep. This is the introduction, of course, to Jack Napier as the Joker at this point. He's still talking like Jack right now, but as soon as a few more seconds pass, you'll see. That's a good line right there. I've been dead once already. It's very liberating. Think of it as a therapy. If you think of it as therapy. And like, even though it's dark and you can't see him, you can still see what he's gonna look like until he gets into the light. And of course, his former boss trying to cut a deal for his life. And then here he introduces himself as his card, as his favorite card. And I'm actually surprised that he didn't have any security over there. Like, and then there's guns going off. There's no suppressor. I don't, if there was suppressor back then, at least, well, in terms of that firearm, but yeah, with the 6-shot, there is no suppressor as far as I know. So yeah, billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne basically slept with Vicky Vale on the second night that he knew her, but he can't sleep. So he's gonna be a bat. He's gonna be Batman. He's gonna be a bat, but not in the way that most of us think. He's gonna be pretty much just hanging shirtless and upside down. Just a little something that they added to the film, I guess, for one reason or another. Kind of make the audience think that he's in some way not human or whatnot. The tone of the film in terms of and the look of Gotham City just really hit it home with this movie and everything that they did in order to make it look like it did. I wonder how many times the audience must have laughed in the theater. You know, I mean, I didn't see this in theater. I saw it when it came out on VHS. So it's like I'm wondering what the theater reactions must have been with some of these guys. Can't make it to lunch. And she's all about the whole relationship and everything, and he doesn't really want to say why he can't make it. And it's not just because of him being Batman, but it's also because, well, it's a specific day for him that holds a lot of weight. So, and Alfred over here basically just spills the beans, like, hey, we're not going anywhere. So over here, Vicky Vale just realized that she's been lied to. Not happy about that. Look at her. He's wow. And she faints, and he's like looking the way he's looking, and he's got the champagne. He's drinking it, or well, or wine or whatever it is, martini. So at this point, he's taken over. He's like, I'm the acting president at this point, and they don't trust him, of course. And yeah, at this point, they're basically forced into everything. But it's like, well, don't these guys also have some power as well? This is a nice line. What's with that stupid grin? And he's like, life's been good to me. Oh, that's funny. And what if we say no? He says. Like, we'll just shake hands and that'll be it. We'll just shake hands and that'll be it. And he's like, yeah. Look at that. Oof. Oof. Jack is just giving it his all at this scene right here. He's singing and killing a guy at the same time, and he's dancing and all that shit. And it's Joker toys, so to speak, or Joker gadgets. And then his guys come in with machine gun or Tommy guns, actually. And yep. Like, hey, you're crazy. And he's like, haven't you ever heard of the healing power of laughter? I wonder if the crew had a hard time keeping it together whenever he would laugh. How interesting is this? And then, of course, he's got the full on green and orange. Or, I'm sorry, purple and orange. With some green thrown in there in the suit. I wonder if some of these, I wonder if the actors actually get to keep any of, like, some of the attire that they get from wardrobe and stuff like that. I know the bat suit. If Ben Affleck wanted to keep the bat suit, it would have cost him $100,000, and I don't think he went for it. Despite the fact that he could afford it, I don't think he went for it. At the same time, I don't blame him because it is a lot of money for a bat suit. It's like, well, 10,000 would have been a little bit more understandable, but it is what it is. In terms of suits, Spider-Man for the most part has it the easiest because all he's really wearing is spandex. And when you get older and you're like, wow, how's this person in this suit all the time? And then over here in this scene right here where Joker is basically talking to this dead corpse at this point, and it's like like And he's laughing at it, and he's like, I wonder if people find this scary or funny. Like, it depends on the audience member, or just in general fucked up. And now that Vicky Vale knows that she's been lied to, she's basically looking at Bruce Wayne's file, and there's pretty much little to nothing. Like, not much people know about this guy. Like, if I was a detective myself, or if I was a reporter, I would have it's kind of like Clark Kent's glasses at this point, hiding his identity as Superman. You know, there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief that you have to do in order, you know, because somebody would have definitely figured out that Bruce Wayne was Batman by now. Because it's like, he's too quiet, he's too this, too that, he's got the money and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, you know, once everybody knows that there is a Batman, it's like, who could this person be? Chances are it's Bruce Wayne when you put all the pieces together and a little bit of research. So, and she's going to tail him to see what the meeting is about. So I'm sure she's thinking something along the lines of, like, is he going to cheat on me or whatnot? Or let's see. But that's not going to happen at all. And she's, you know, it's a big deal. And that's the spot right there. And it actually looks pretty accurate from what I've seen in the comics and everything too. Some of the angles and stuff. 2 roses specifically, one for mom, one for dad. And specifically right there in that spot. So at this point, she's very curious in what's special about that place and everything like that. So it's like, nope, she's not cheating on you. It's a little bit deeper than that. Now at this point, one of the other bosses is basically, you know, take over for this guy to take over. And then nobody knows that Grissom is actually dead. Did you do a little time together as children? Knox, just hilarious. And then of course, one of Joker's henchmen. Yep, here we go. And then Bruce Wayne is just right there looking. I mean, and nobody's looking at him being like, hey, it's Bruce Wayne. Can we get a word or something like that? What do you think of this? Blah, blah, blah. And as you can see right there, it's like, it's literally Batman. Like when you look at his eyes and his demeanor and the body language, it's literally Batman without the suit. Then you see Joker over here with the hat, and then the lipstick being a little bit different. And then you got Joker's guys just showing up right behind him and shit. You know it's about to go down. Joker basically committing murder right there in front of everybody. And of course, the pen is muddier than the sword. That's like a great line right there. And then you got Joker's bad guys just doing what they do with their guns. And Bruce gets shot. But no effect. It's like, does he have Kevlar under there or whatnot? Or I don't know. Is that coat made out of Kevlar? So, although they do make stuff like that, though. I mean, nowadays, I mean, back then it must have been even more secret. Like, you know, if you watch John Wick, it's like they can make some pretty cool shit. It's like it'll hurt like hell, but you know, but you'll be fine. And then you got the infamous boxing glove that goes to the TV. It's like, I'm sure somebody at home has one of those things. I mean, that's like that's a classic Joker toy right there. That's like legendary status Joker toy. Even Bob is looking at Jack and he's like, I don't know what to think of this guy. He's nuts. Sometimes you think in this movie with the conversation between he and Alfred about Vicky Vale, it's like he wants like subtly he wants Bruce to like not do this, but Bruce is in too deep right now at this point. So because Jack Napier is still around, he's like, if you're not going to move on with your life, if not now, then when? And Bruce doesn't even know, especially since he found out that Jack is still around. And at this point, he needs info. He needs info on everything. So even though it's kind of subtle in this film, it's like he's stuck between, you know, being Batman and at the same time he wants to be with Vicky. And that's the thing, when you can't really have both. That's why most relationships with Bruce Wayne just never really stuck around. The only one that I think was one of the main ones that in terms of relationships with Bruce that ended up having a lot of off and ons and stuff like that was with Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, because she herself is a person that's in a suit. You know what I mean? So, granted, she's a thief, but with that being said, there's a lot of similarities and stuff like that. But ultimately, if Bruce were to get married, like legitimately married, he would have to give up being Batman. And it just seems like there are so many different things that have happened that basically force him to, like, to where he's got no choice, in a sense. And at the same time, he knows that he has to handle it. So it's really hard to replace a Batman, you know what I mean? So that's why in one of the cartoons, what they ended up doing was it was a Justice League cartoon. It was an epilogue episode to where we find out that Terry McGinnis was like actually kind of partially created by Amanda Waller and her thing. So with part of Bruce's DNA as well as, you know, Terry's mom's DNA put in together. So there's some of Bruce in him, but like from a physical standpoint, they're very similar. But in terms of mental, I mean, you know, Bruce was a genius. That's the thing. That's one of the things that it makes it very different from that. But we'll see if that ends up being canon. You know, they could make a Batman Beyond movie, which I would absolutely love, especially with Michael Keaton playing the older Bruce Wayne and then Terry McGinnis and being Terry. But the thing is, they're going to change something because they don't always copy and paste what they've done before in animated stuff or in or in the graphic novels or comic books or something like that. They won't, in a live action film, they always change it up because they don't want it to be too predictable. And they, and at the same time, like when you look at what Avengers did, and with up until Endgame, the way they put all the pieces together and making the source material relevant without completely cutting and pasting what the source material did. I mean, you got to give it to Marvel. They did a good job during that time. So, and DC needs to accomplish something similar, and that's the pickle, so to speak, right? It's like, how do you make something, like, how do you give a nod to the source material but not copy and paste the source material onto the screen, and yet making it relevant, and yet making the story still unpredictable to where the audience will be like, I won't see this coming, or I won't see that coming. You know what I mean? So that's the pickle that they have to figure out. Granted, they have the right people behind it. Good news is, if you have the right people behind it, you can figure it out. And of course, you got this poor reporter over here that just kind of laughed, and and then you got Joker taking over TV and everything else. So I swear, his sense of humor really is like, sure, he'll make you laugh, but like, the way I like to describe Jack Nicholson's version of the Joker is like a darker version of what Cesar Romero did. And for those of you guys who are not familiar with Cesar Romero, he's basically the guy who played Joker in the Adam West Batman era. So basically, what Jack is doing here, what Jack is doing with the Joker character, is he's making it a darker version of what Cesar Romero did. But of course, putting his own little spin on it. So, because when you look at it, that's what it really is. It's a darker version of Cesar Romero. So he finally got the information, like legit information about Jack Napier. He wants to know his enemy at this point. So as soon as he finds out that Jack Napier is all about like one of his aptitudes is chemistry, he's like, okay, let's crack this. It's like, let's go shopping, because he wants to kind of decode what's wrong with everything that's going on. So, and that's where you kind of have like a little bit of a hint that, of Batman's smarts, so to speak, right? But there's just not enough of that. There's just not enough of that. And what's really funny is, over here they're showing these reporters about makeup, and this guy's like a mess in comparison. So they're not wearing makeup or anything because of, because they don't want to get, screwed up. So it's kind of funny. There's some subtle humor behind it. And here you have another scene with Billy Dee. And I think it's the last scene in the film with Billy Dee Williams. And it would have been really interesting to see him as Two-Face, to be honest, in the second film. Or I'm sorry, in the third film. But obviously the third film, who knows, maybe they even offered it to him and he said no. And rightfully so, because Michael Keaton could have reprised his role in Batman Forever, but he said no. It just didn't seem like Batman to him, and especially coming from the first two films. And I personally don't think it would have been right to have Michael Keaton in the third film, because the third film was just so different. It's like even though the third film was a sequel to the second film, and the fourth film was a sequel to the third film, it's almost like another dimension in terms of like the way everybody looks, like the whole city and everything. You go from dark Gotham and gritty and stuff like that into what you see in the first two films, to all of a sudden like neon and all that stuff. It's like, it wouldn't make sense. And then you got this museum, which has some of the coolest and coolest scenes in the film is in this part with the museum and how Joker just messes up the art. And you get the Prince music, and then of course Batman coming in later on. There's lots in this particular part of the film now. And as a Batman fan, there's plenty of reasons why a Batman fan would not actually like this film. And I say that wholeheartedly as a person who is a Batman fan and prefers Batman and is Batman is the favorite superhero. There's a lot of flaws with this movie, but there's just something about it that just makes you love it. Like specifically if you grew up around the time I did. Maybe it was because it was the first to do what it did or something like that, to the extent that it did. Especially with the Batman character actually being brought onto the forefront as this dark vigilante, as opposed to most heroes being like, the opposite of that. Maybe that was it, or part of it. And then you've got the gas or whatever that Joker is putting on here, so like if I was them and if I saw that shit coming, I would have been like I would have gotten out of there. I wouldn't just stand there and be like, "Hey, what's that?" And those desserts look good, by the way. And here comes the Prince song, and then you got the henchman, especially the tall bald henchman who just perfect. Of course he's gonna, and of course all the henchmen are starting to smile and shit like that. And they got the cool Joker jackets. I'm sure if somebody actually has one of those jackets that any of the henchmen wore, like the classic Joker logo and everything from this movie, I'm pretty sure one of those jackets would be fucking expensive right now to get if you were to actually be able to get one from wherever you get these sort of things. And who knows, maybe somebody that's listening to this might actually know of someone that has one, or might even have one themselves. You just never know. Clever. And everybody's smiling their asses off and shit. It's so funny. Jack Nicholson, I'm telling you. The man absolutely just had like so much energy in this film. So much energy in this film. He was allowed to completely let loose, and it was awesome. It's like, and of course he sees Vicky Vale. She's got the mask on still, and what's amazing is she just sat there the entire time while all this shit was going on. And this is a cool scene right here with the cool part right here with the lighter. Disrespecting her work. He's like, crap, crap, crap. And she's just like, what the hell? And of course, a body right there. Now that's good work. Oh man, Jack. Like right now, Vicky Vale is just like all over the place mentally. He's like, He's like, I make art until someone dies. And like, look, see, I'm the world's first fully functioning homicidal artist. Funny. I swear. He gets so many flavors of Jack in this movie. And he looks at her and he's like, do I look like I'm joking? And yeah, he actually does. And he's all about Vicky Vale at this point, or else she would have probably been dead too. And you said I could watch you improve the paintings, like all the different things he did. The paintings is meant. And he's calling this woman a sketch, the woman that he was, the former boss's girlfriend or whatever. Like he basically made her like him in a sense, but different, like to where like, yeah. He's like, I'm not a Picasso, but do you like it? And she's like, yeah, great. Now it's discovered that he wants to go after Batman. She says, "Oh my gosh, you're insane." And he's like, "I thought it was a Pisces." And I was like, "Oh man." And then of course you get one of Joker's signature weapons over here with that flower that just spits out acid or whatnot. And throwing water in his face, all like that. He looks like he's melting, and she's like trying to cover him. He's like, "Boo." And then, of course, the iconic scene where Batman just comes in from the top ceiling, breaks in, and gets her out of there, basically, at this point, using some of his gadgets. Yeah, and you see some comic book Batman at this point right here. And then as soon as you open the door, you get introduced to one of the coolest things in Batman's arsenal, or just cool things Batman, period, which is the iconic Batmobile. He's like, get in the car, and she's like, which one? It's like, yeah, little blonde moment right there. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious which car it is. And that sucker is fully bulletproof, and and of course you got the flame in the back and everything like that. Now, the biggest question I have is, like, there's been so many iterations of the Batmobile. Which Batmobile is your guys' favorite? Obviously, in the first and in the second one, it was the same Batmobile, and then the third one just looked, they made it kind of look like this one, but at the same time way off, and making it look a lot more I don't know, more like a bat, but at the same time I was like, and then the fourth one looked like Adam West's Batmobile, but like more modern for back in the day in 97. That's what it looked like. So what about that? Like, what's your favorite Batmobile? Which Batmobile is your favorite iteration that we ever had? And then you've got the Tumbler from the Dark Knight, and then you've got the what's it called? From the Dark Knight trilogy, you got the Tumbler, and then you've got Ben Affleck's Batmobile. That obviously can like go through shit and take a lot of damage. So I'm actually curious as to what people's preferences are, and for what reason. Because some people will like the Batmobile strictly because of what it looks like, and then other people will like the Batmobile specifically because of what it can do. So if the Batmobile, or any version of the Batmobile, whatever it may be called, like like this one over here, could put shields all around it that makes it completely bulletproof and unbreakable, like nobody can break into it. And he can operate it by voice through the walkie-talkie or whatever, or the microphone that looks like a walkie-talkie. And obviously these guys can't shoot anything because they're missing every single shot. And Vicky Vale weighs 108, but it's revealed a little bit later on in the film that she weighs a little bit more than 108. Because she's not like skinny skinny. I mean, she's slender, but she's not skinny skinny, and she's taller than he is. And it takes her all the way up, like really quickly. And he drops down. And he gets shot. And those are the two shots that actually hit. But and obviously he's got the suit on, so he's completely protected, but it still knocked him out though. Because he took two hits really, really close. And we get this little scene over here where Batman basically beats the shit out of all these guys, which is cool. And then you got the crazy dude coming out with all sorts of with the swords, and then he starts just screaming left and right. I don't know if some people were actually like laughing at this scene or if they thought it was intimidating. I'm not sure. And you also learn that Batman's gauntlets are pretty much sword proof or machete proof or whatever. Yeah, pretty much machete proof, just shiny machete. And a classic kick to the face, and then we start calling the Batmobile back. I almost said Catmobile. But he knows that Vicky Vale's got some footage because they did kind of pull his mask up a little bit. If Batman doesn't want anything to get out, it's his secret identity, because honestly, it's all that Batman has that's protecting him overall. Bruce Wayne can't pull a Tony Stark and be like, yeah, I am such and such. And this is one of my favorite scenes in the film. The score that Danny Elfman did in this film was terrific. And, you know, the Batmobile headed home and going through the woods or whatnot. And, yeah. And then she wonders where they're going, and he just puts the pedal to the metal and just goes full speed ahead. And then they head back to the cave. So, and then of course, you know, you hear about how fast the Batmobile is, and they give you a little bit of a taste of that in this segment right here, and it just goes really, really fast. And at the same time, it's like it's just a very very iconic moment. And remember, this was in 1989, so in this day and age, it probably wouldn't be as impactful if it was recreated exactly like this. But again, back in those days, I mean, it was something, you know, this was like the golden era. Like, well, I don't know, golden era, special way to specific way to call it, I don't know, but this was like the beginning of a lot that would come a while later. But this was like the beginning. So anything that was like in the comics or something that was written in the graphic novels that you can, even for a few seconds, put on screen, it becomes very iconic. As basic as it is, it's iconic. It's kind of like video games, you know. It's like you had to be there in order to truly appreciate it. There are iconic games and iconic moments and iconic soundtracks of video games that were from the Nintendo or the Super Nintendo. But the ones that truly understand firsthand how iconic those were, and to actually feel the iconicness, are the people that were around when those games first came out, before we had what we have today. So, and man, that's scary right there. It's like you're taking a risk every single time. It's like, oh, what if you don't see the edge? You know, it's Batmobile. But yeah, here we are in the Batcave. with plenty of bats, and one of them was in a cage. And then, yeah, of some of the stuff you see in the animated series, you see here, which is pretty cool. And she's trying to look at him to see what he's like and who he is for what, and see if she can recognize him, but she doesn't know. Or maybe she does. Maybe she suspects it. I don't know. And then you see a little bit of Batman's smarts in this. You know, hairspray mixed with perfume and lipstick will become toxic and untraceable. So he gives her what she needs to know in terms of cracking the Joker's code. And he's like, yeah, take that to the press. And of course, Batman is basically made aware, like, a lot of people think that you're basically as dangerous as a Joker. And he's like, those people are crazy. And his Batman voice is really good. It's like where he could still sound like Michael Keaton, but not exactly. It's almost like he's whispering, but he's not. But it's Michael Keaton, and he's doing it right. So nobody's laughing at his voice. So and he's done it. He's done the Batman voice a few times ever since before he stepped into the suit again recently. Yeah. Some things just never leave, really. Like even Billy D. Remember when The Rise of Skywalker was coming out, and they had all the cast there, and they were doing like the people from the audience were asking questions, and he's like, it's like, did it take you a while to get back into the Lando Calrissian character again? And he's like, and Billy D basically says, Lando never left. And that got an applause, like a woohoo moment from the crowd, and an applause with that response. Because once you play a character like that, and especially if you played them long enough and you know the character, like you truly know the character, like it becomes a part of you. It's kind of like riding a bike. Once you learn how, you never forget. So that, which is pretty awesome. You can't underestimate something like that. You really can't. And then of course you got Joker over here looking at the TV again. Except this time he doesn't use the boxing glove. He just takes out his gun and just shoots it. And he's pissed with Batman at this point because Batman has pretty much cracked the Joker's code and saving a lot of people in the process. So and Ms. Vale is calling again. And now even Alfred is basically telling her that, hey, maybe you should tell her the truth. And he's like, yeah, I'm right. So it's like, well, see, and that's one of the things that this movie gets wrong. It's like, you can't just, a woman that you've only known for like, what, a week, according to this movie or something like that at this point. Like, all of a sudden now she's going to know that you're Batman. Like, you're advising him to, because the thing is, when Batman, like, if somebody knows the identity of Batman, it's a huge fucking deal, dude. I mean, it's one of the few things that he has, that gives him, protection and among other things and stuff like that. So he really has to trust you. And it's like this, in my opinion, she hasn't earned that, despite the fact, she keeps calling him and stuff like that. But it's like, and she tells him, you hurt me, I called and you lied about leaving town. And he's like, let me tell you why. And then she's pissed off, and then trusted you, I can't sleep with you. You wouldn't even return my phone calls. You're a jerk. And I like how he talked to her like that. He's like, you're a real nice girl. I like you a lot, but right now, shut up. I have something I have to tell you. So I like that. I like that response that Bruce gave her. It's almost like that was like Batman talking right there from, you know, with his eyes and stuff like that. It's like, okay, it's like literally Batman was talking to her right there. It's like, hey, I like you a lot, but shut up. So at this point, he's basically trying to tell her and explain to her that he's Batman, like without necessarily saying it, but he's really close to like saying it, but it gets interrupted by, you know, the door. But so he's basically trying to explain to her without telling her that he's Batman, like my life is not normal. It's not, you know, his life is really complex because of what he does. And he's like trying to tell her without telling her straight up. And she's not getting it. And then now he's like, all right, look, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. And before he tells her, the doorbell rings. And it's a big deal for him. Like he doesn't want to tell her, but, and she's like, it's okay. You can tell me. And the thing I've always appreciated about Keaton's Batman is basically going back to what I was saying earlier. It's all in the eyes with him. It's very similar to how you're trying to be scary when you can't use, you know, the entirety of your facial expression. Like with Keaton, I think his strength as Batman has always been in the eyes. Above everything else, it's always been in the eyes. And obviously, whenever he does talk, it's always good. But with that being said, with Keaton, his true power as Batman, in my opinion, is in the eyes, because and obviously he knows the character. He is the character, but you know, the one thing that separates him more than anything else was the eyes. I think that's what he did better than any other Batman that has ever played the role, with all due respect. But the thing is, it's not really something that you can teach. I think some people just have it, if that makes sense. Because Keaton obviously is lacking other things, right? He's not, you know, he's not a big man. He's not muscular. He's not physically imposing or something like that. But he has to make do. Like, you know, like Batman is supposed to be at least as big as that bald bodyguard right there with the glasses holding the radio. He's always holding the radio. Batman is supposed to be like that. Like he's supposed to be comparable to that guy at least, right? In terms of, you know, the size and the stature and stuff like that. But he's not. So, but with Keaton, he did everything else very well, like the voice and then the eyes. He did that very well. And obviously in the suit, thankfully, he looks really intimidating in the suit, despite the fact that he's not, you know, big and all that kind of stuff. Or the suit is great. And he looks good in the cowl in terms of how it was designed and stuff like that. So, and with the eyes, it counts even more. But the thing is with Bruce, whenever he's Bruce, and for a few seconds, if you ever see Batman through Bruce without the mask, which you'll actually see in a scene that's coming soon, it's almost as if like, it's like, yeah, that's Batman. It's like, you don't need to put the mask on him. You don't need to put the cowl. He doesn't have to have the suit on. It's like, you know, just from the eyes alone. Like if you could only see somebody's eyes, you know, and be like, okay, which one of these guys is Batman? It's like, yeah, it's that guy. So as weird as that may sound to whoever's listening to me saying that, I think that for me personally, that's one thing that, to me at least, made Keaton stand apart from the other gentlemen that have played the role. And with that alone right there, it's like, you know, that's it gave I think it also gave audiences a reason to take Keaton seriously. Because again, when you're only known for comedy, you know, and your job is to make people laugh, and then all of a sudden now it's like you're supposed to like make people take you seriously, you know? It's kind of like Jim Carrey in a sense. You know, Jim Carrey kind of did the same thing, you know, especially when he went to do the Truman Show, and then he did some drama and stuff like that. And, you know, Jim Carrey is a damn good actor, and a very versatile actor as well. So, and this is funny. She opens the box and Joker. The Joker humor, man. So at this point, Vicky Vale, you know, Knox had a little bit of a. Knox has been doing some research on the street corner where Bruce brought down the flowers, and then Knox is like, I think your friend Wayne is screwed up, and they find out why. I mean, you would think it would be public knowledge, but in this film, that's how they just go about it. Like his parents were murdered over there. And then she kind of puts the pieces together, and she kind of discovers that he's Batman. And I guess in off screen, she probably told Alfred, like, hey, I know he's Batman. Take me to the cave, you know, because it just shows her later on that Alfred just lets her in the cave or whatnot. So they should have done a scene to where she's like, you know, I know about Bruce. I need to see him or something like that. So. And the thing is, he's only got one suit in this film. Thankfully, in the second film, he's got way more. But he's only got one over there, and it's obviously sealed and locked like a safe. But it's a nice suit, though. I like this iteration of the bat suit, believe it or not. And then you have a touching moment with Alfred and Bruce. Like, what's on your mind, Alfred? And he's like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life grieving for the loss of old friends or their sons. So in other words, he's telling Bruce that he's worried about him. You know, it's like he doesn't want to see Bruce be Batman forever. And, you know, not just for him, but like for Bruce himself. They did a really good job of explaining that in The Dark Knight Rises, though. Like, Alfred literally left because Bruce is, you know, it was going to continue being Batman and all that kind of stuff. You know, he left in order to truly get his point across. And Alfred is a man that is very wise, very caring, and a gentleman's gentleman. And he's had, like, as smart as Bruce is, he's had so many answers. Like, he's filled in the blanks that Bruce is missing. That's the thing about Alfred. And I know we're in the scene now to where Joker is basically, you know, hacked into the live broadcast and is basically saying that he's gonna basically, you know, give away like 20 million in cash or whatnot at the parade or whatnot at the festival. But it's really important. Like, Alfred is you can't have Batman without Alfred. Like, if Alfred didn't exist, Batman would easily be a villain. There's no doubt about that. You know, he's the sole reason that Batman hasn't crossed over, because anybody who knows the graphic novels and the comics and the stories, you know, way better than me, would probably tell you the same thing. And remember what I was talking about earlier about the eyes and stuff like that? Here's the scene where I'm talking about. So Bruce is watching this from the Batcave, you know, with his black turtleneck and everything. But when you look at his eyes, it's like, yep, that's Batman right there. It's like not Bruce, he's not wearing the suit, but it's like, yeah, that's Batman. You know, the eyes are what separate him, in my opinion. And the other guys can do the same thing, but yet different. But it's like there's another layer of darkness behind Michael Keaton's gaze when he looks at it. Like he's just very intimidating that way. So that way when he's in a suit, and if you make eye contact with that man in that suit, it's like you've got every reason to like be on edge when you see that. So of course over here he kind of takes a trip down memory lane in his mind on the night where his parents were killed. And he ends up realizing that the man who killed his parents was the man that he just saw on screen. So, and I think that's one thing that Bob Kane, the creator of Batman, along with Bill Finger, I believe, but Bob Kane, I think, mentioned at one point to where he kind of like that he liked what the film did in terms of making the Joker the murderer of Bruce's parents instead of Joe Chill. And he might have even done that if he could have, I mean, can you imagine that, like that being a thing? And like the thing is, like, would you make Batman know all along after figuring it out at some point, and yet dealing with the back and forth of that and trying to keep his word of not killing or whatnot and stuff like that? Or do you keep it a mystery, like to where only the audience knows? But as smart as Batman is, he never discovers the true murder of his parents' family, of his parents. But it's been the Joker all along, I mean, I don't know. But the truth is it was Joe Chill. So, and this scene has been done numerous amount of times. But this is like obviously like the full on scene, and it's the first time we ever see it. But yeah, by Bruce surviving this encounter, basically it's like he was in the biggest he was in the biggest position to eliminate one of the most dangerous heroes, if not the most dangerous hero, but it didn't happen. And the thing is, that's like your only shot you're gonna get when you think about it like that. That's your only shot that you're gonna get, because what Batman ends up turning into, as he grows and stuff like that, he turns into a very well trained and a very well educated anti-criminal weapon in the form of a human being, basically. So, and now that she knows that he's Batman, she's kind of intimidated or whatnot, and to what he thinks, and as to what he would think, but and she's wondering why he won't let her in. And he tells her that you got in, and then all of a sudden she tells him how she feels about him, but she doesn't know what to think about him being Batman, and he doesn't either. And this is Batman talking right here. It's not Bruce. It's Batman without the suit on. And he's explained to her, he's like, this is something I have to do. And she's like, why? And he's like, nobody else can. And he explains that he's actually tried to avoid it, but he can't. And he's accepting reality. And she's basically like, well, listen, things don't have to be perfect in order for us to be together. And he'd like to move on with it, but Joker's out there and he's got to put, So, and that's what he does, basically. She asked him earlier, like, what he does for a living. Like when they first met in that first scene where he had all the armored stuff that he bought, including that one from Japan. She basically says, what do you do for a living? And in this scene, it's actually funny. It's like, he said to her, he's out there right now. Joker's out there and I got to go to work. So this is what he does. The ultimate job that nobody else can do. And part of that reason is, yes, because he can afford to do it because he's rich and to get all the stuff and gadgets that he needs and to create and stuff like that, and not having to worry about work because this is what he does. But But at the same time, that comes with a heavy price, even for the rich. It comes with a heavy price. So, and then of course, even though we're past this scene now, we're at the scene where, the Joker's goons are trying to shoot the Batmobile with no luck whatsoever in terms of penetrating it until it drops bombs. But the scene where he puts the suit on, although it's very, very brief, it's still an iconic moment in the film. And again, Danny Elfman's score in this film throughout, especially in this scene, is just epic. It's like, it just fits the film so well with the tone and the color palette and everything. And when that all comes together, I think that's one of the things that make this film what it is for me personally, because it's a form of art and a character that I really love and adore. And even though it's not 100% accurate, it's just, it's the combination of all those things that make me love it. And the fact that I grew up with it as a child and the kind of impact it had on me as a child. And it makes me feel like that, or gives me hints of that when I watch it, because it retains that feeling of when I had when I was a child watching it. Obviously it's not the same because I've grown up now, as hard as that is to believe, but whenever I personally watch this movie, it's kind of like, it's almost like briefly reliving or getting a hint of that feeling again. And I think that's why this is my favorite Batman film, because one of the reasons why this is my favorite Batman film, despite all of its issues and the things that I don't like about it. It's like everything else is just, it's pure entertainment. And it's just, and Jack Nicholson's performance. And again, this was made in 1989. So, which says a lot. So, so yeah, when you put it all together, man, this movie was a classic, and it is a classic, and it's always, whenever you have a Batman marathon on TV, I know a lot of people don't watch TV now because of all the different streaming services and stuff like that, and all the Batman movies are available in those, but like if TV was as relevant like now like it was, like, let's say 10 to 15 years ago, whenever a Batman marathon would come on, this would probably be the first film that would be played. Unless they did the Adam West one first, but this would likely be the film that would be played first. And it would be this one, and then Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin, or excuse me, this one, then Batman Returns, and Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. Yeah, like 10 years ago, yeah, they also would have played the Dark Knight films as well. I wonder if there's a Batman Day. But yeah, this character was created in 1939, so it'd be 50 years later to where the first Batman film was made. So, which says quite a lot, because that's when Batman was actually created, in 1939. And you get the first glimpse of the Batwing, which in this film looks pretty amazing, even though, like, oh man, it's basically the Bat logo. Simple as that. It's a Bat logo, and it's flying, and and the sound effects are really cool too. And I bet a lot of kids were like, "Ooh, I want that toy," and I couldn't blame them. I think I even had that toy. I had the Batmobile, and I had the toy, and then I had the Batwing. So, or the Bat plane. I didn't know that you called it the Batwing as a kid. You just called it the Bat plane or whatever, or just And in the Dark Knight trilogy, they in the Dark Knight Rises, they call it the Bat, which, yeah, you might as well call it a bat, because that's basically what it is. And again, the cinematography, man, I'm telling you, I never get enough of the cinematography in this film. Again, another reason as to why I love this film. As simple as those reasons are. And now you got Joker over here trying to, he's about to unleash his plan and then, get the gas going and take out everybody in the city and shit. He lured them in with money, and now he's gonna, clean house, so to speak. Yeah. So. But yeah, you get some really cool brief scenes of the Batwing just kind of flying around and doing its thing, and while all this stuff is going on, and Vicky notices that this is not good. And sometimes you're like, well, these guys can't tell, but yeah, now they can. So, but and then Knox, of course, with a baseball bat, just got to give it to Knox though. He's a brave character as well. And Batman kind of flying around Gotham and then going around and trying to get a good view and an angle and everything. You just, yeah. Like as a kid, and when you watch that, you're like, yeah, that is fucking awesome. And as an adult, I'm looking at him like, this is cool stuff, but come on, dude. It's like you're just flying around the city and stuff like that. You got to go down there and do what you got to do and get the freaking gas out of there. But he ends up getting his angle. Yikes. Vicky Vale. I've seen better drivers. And gadgets on the Batwing, of course. You gotta have the gadgets. And remember, this is back in 1989, so high tech. Nice, we get a little FPS view over there. Like, yep, we got to get out of there now. So this is actually like the first, if you think about it, this is actually the first part of the film to where Batman is actually seen as a good guy, because a lot of people think he's as dangerous as the Joker and stuff like that. So it's like this is where, you know, this is where the public would finally get a glimpse that that Batman is actually the good guys. And Joker's pissed off because none of his henchmen told him that Batman's got a Batwing. Nobody knew. Asks for Bob's gun and then shoots him with it. And he's a little sad. He's like, yep, we're going to need a couple minutes. I'm going to need a minute or two alone. So they start shooting the sky, and the people get scared and they start running away. And this is one of my favorite shots of the film, to where the Batwing just basically just silhouettes in front of the moon like that, and it's like you get the Bat logo. That's one of the most badass moments. As basic as it is badass. And then you start to see that Batman, like, he very much is all about killing in this film, and it doesn't take this scene to realize that, but it's like, whew. And this one's like, oof. He's armed with machine guns on that thing and missiles, you name it, lock-on system. And the whole city right there, the downtown area, is clear. There's nobody around. The Joker's henchmen like scared everybody off. And that's like one of my favorite shots right there. You could see it. You could see it coming down from a distance, and Joker's like, come on. And I'm like, damn. That's like one of my favorite shots. Now Batman pretty much takes out Joker's henchmen and stuff. I mean, look. And look, he's about to lock on, and he's locked on, and then goes to pull, and how in the world does he miss? is my only question. I have no idea. And then Joker gets his gun out that just so happens to be, I call it a long john. Oh man, I wonder if the audience was like as a kid, I would have been like, whoa. But as an adult, it makes me laugh when I see him pull that gun out. I'm like, that's so fucking funny. That's like so Joker humor right there. And then Batman goes down with just one shot. And at this point, you're like, he's got to be dead. But he's not there. You know, she looks at the Batwing and she goes in and he's not there. And he's like, yep, I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. And then he looks up and sees how high this building is, how tall it is. And he's like, yeah, make it 10. And Batman was either hiding under there or just happened to be under there. And he's wounded. You could tell by the scratch on his face. But thankfully, I think the suit saved the rest of his ass. But honestly, you know, if it was based off of realism, which this is obviously not, that man would have either been dead or paralyzed for life. If he was lucky to survive. Which was a very low chance in the first place. Like if it was, you know. And throughout the course of this scene of the film, you know, Danny Elfman's score again just is like front and center because there's no words exchanged or anything at this point. And it's like the music does the talking for the film. And Danny's score in this particular part does a really good job of basically explaining like the feeling of the scene of like, okay, Batman's got to basically he's got to follow from behind, and then Vicky Vale dropped, and then everything just changes immediately. Like every single aspect of the score in this film is just like incredible to me. It's a huge deal of why I love this movie. And of course, the cops don't get there on time. It's like, where were the cops the entire time everything was going down? It's like, is Gotham City Police Department like that far away from everything else? It's like, again, so many things that this movie just, yeah, but it is what it is. It's all good. Is Kim barefoot at this point? Yes, she is. Vicky Vale's barefoot. Which is better off because she was wearing heels anyway, so. And of course, he's going to stop the cops by basically getting the and I like how he walks away. It's like, yeah, it's like he looks surprised that the thing fell down, but Batman thankfully was in a spot to where he'd still be okay. And he'd be far enough to where he'd be able to stop the Joker, but of course no help from the cops. Granted, they were late in the first place. And that big ass bell is going to block their entrance, of course. Of course, Gordon tries to pull a Superman, and of course can't. And that's a hell of a lot of exercise with those amount of stairs to go up a building that high. And all Gordon does is tell him to get the searchlights up there. Not going to do anything. Need to get some choppers. If Joker's got choppers, you got to get choppers from the police up there. That would have made things interesting, but of course, you know, the big finale has to be, you know, Joker and Joker's goons. And the thing is, the question I have is, how in the world did Joker's goons get up here? It's like it was just Joker and Vicky. How in the world did those guys get up there? I mean, was there something I missed? Oh, and this goon in particular really is he knows gymnastics and he likes to scream. Oh, it's the dude that was from the other scene, I think. Up right there. That's a very interesting gadget that just pops out of his glove. And Joker is fucking dancing over here and she's like barely hanging on. It's like I think that's funny. Now this is funny too. It's like the henchman tries to surprise Batman from the back and he falls through the falls through the floor. And then you get a scene over here where Batman basically struggles against this dude because this dude is actually tough. And this is one of the funnier scenes coming up over here. Where Joker's like, without you, I just couldn't go on. And then you get the iconic bang on the gun. And then she screams at it, of course, because she screams a lot in this film. So it makes her laugh. And he's like, ah. This guy's looking for Batman. He hasn't found him yet. And he's on top of the thing and he tries to pull a Batman but fails. That's cool. You actually see Batman fail a little bit. And how that suit really is saving his ass at this point. Because he's about to take a lot of punches to the gut. And it's just not working, obviously. But at the same time, you could just tell that if it wasn't for that suit, he would have taken a huge ass pounding. And then, of course, boom, head against the bell and then drop down. Poor guy. See, Batman definitely does kill in this movie, and plenty of times. And then Joker over here is in love, and he's like, oh, we were made for each other, Beauty and the Beast. And then he says, if anybody calls you Beast, if anybody else calls you Beast, I'll rip their lungs out. So he's referring to himself as the Beauty. Little things like that make me laugh. And he's got his back pointing to where Batman is walking by, and then she sees Batman. Basically just signals that, yeah, it's just there's nobody else here but me. So it's like, yeah, at this point Joker's pretty much fucked. And then she pretends to like him to kind of distract him, and like, and even Joker's like, what the hell's going on? Like, oh my gosh, this is what I wanted. What is going on? Like, even Joker's got that expression about him that basically says like, wow, she's crazy. Jack, that's funny. Now at this point, he basically told him who he was. Excuse me, have you ever danced with the devil in a pale moonlight? And he's like, yep, you made me. Remember, you dropped me in that vat of chemicals. And don't think I didn't try, because that wasn't easy to get over. And he's like, yeah, I know you did. And then Joker takes a little bit of a beating here, of course, and rightfully so. And a little bit of Joker humor over here as well. So teeth come out and you see a lot of the Arkham Asylum games' teeth that you have to destroy. And tries to punch Batman in the gut, and of course that doesn't work. So at this point he's like, yep, you killed my parents. He's like, what are you talking about? I was a kid when I killed your parents. When I say I made you, you gotta made me, you know? So technically speaking, yeah, Batman was made first. So you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? And then he just hits him immediately. And the funny thing is, I actually wrote like some quite a few pages of a true sequel to this film, like a true sequel that would take place like exactly where this one ends. And actually, the way it starts is to where basically it ends, well, okay, like when Batman punches the Joker and he seemingly falls off the building. Like all this that takes place here never happened. Like Joker basically falls off, but like I guess his suit or something like that grabs onto one of the gargoyles and he basically like, you know, he's gone. And Batman thinks that, you know, he's dead or something like that. And then you know, at the very end of the film, when you see Batman on top of the building, and again, I don't completely remember everything that I wrote, so there's a couple things that I'm kind of paraphrasing or whatnot. But like the beginning of the film actually takes place like where this film ends. Like the opening credits would be you know, from a sky view around Gotham City and you know, within the clouds and stuff like that. And then you would start where we see the last shot of this film, where Batman is standing on top of the building looking at the bat symbol going up for the first time. You know, so think of that scene but in reverse. And then we see Batman right there, and then how he gets off the building, and then what happens when he goes back home when Vicky Vale is over there waiting for him. So and I even used a little bit of the Arkham games to basically like, you guys remember the Arkham Knight trailer, to where it was the father to son letter that he like Bruce Wayne's father left him, you know, the will and testament. Like that will and testament was a part of what I had written for the second film. You know, so despite the fact that, you know, he defeated the Joker and stuff like that, Vicky Vale was waiting for him back home, but he was already there. And then she went down, and basically she was kind of helping him with his wounds and stuff like that. And, you know, he goes to take off the suit and stuff like that. And, you know, she finds a box or something along those lines. And inside that box is a piece of paper that's got the will and testament of the deceased, Thomas Wayne, written on it. And, you know, and that's why he looks at her and tells her, I can't stop being Batman. It's not finished. But Joker ends up surviving, so you get that. So, and then you got those. And then you basically have the Joker's henchmen and stuff like that. There's, you know, there's a lot that goes on. But I wrote a few pages. It was fun to write. Wasn't perfect by any means, but in my eyes, the sequel would have taken, like, I would have loved for the sequel to continue from where this left off, but with Joker surviving instead of dying. And the first thing that came to mind was that Joker, you know, survived somehow. Like, not like, and I don't mean like surviving as in, you know, he landed, but you know, his body somehow survived. It's like, no, it's more like, you know, more like he was completely lucky. Like he got knocked off the building by the punch that Batman gave him when he wore the glasses, and you know, his suit or something, or his coat or whatever, kind of grabbed onto one of those gargoyles, and he managed to hang on. And you know, he was able to just, actually, I do remember this part, like he was able to just stay there and just hide, and then he called one of his henchmen with the helicopter to come and pick him up or something like that from the building, the one that was supposed to take him away in this film. So yeah, basically what ended up getting Joker was the fact that Batman just fired a little bit of a rope of some kind or whatnot that grabbed hold on to the neck, to the gargoyle. So in my eyes, the thing that killed Joker, or part of the thing that killed Joker in the film of what actually happened, would actually be something that saved him in my script, something of that nature. And of course, you see the iconic Bat logo, and it's done correctly, because if you look at the Bat logo from the symbol, from the signal that gets, you know, put up, that one is correct. But if you look at the symbol on his chest, there's a few too many curves on the bottom, so to speak. So, but it's all good. Thankfully, I don't think they made that same mistake in the second film. So, thankfully. And of course, it also started with here. Like, he wouldn't, you know, it might be a few minutes until he gets home. She's like, yeah, I'm not a bit surprised. So. But yeah, you get the iconic view of, you know, the camera just going up a really high building of Gotham, and at the very top you got Batman right there looking at his symbol. And I think that's a really good way to end this film. I like again, Danny Elfman's theme, and then you get the three, and then you got the bell ringing 3 times, and he's just standing right there and looking right at the symbol. So I wonder, and it really makes me wonder as the film ends, as we fade to black here and we go into credits, I really wonder if they're going to give any nods to this film in the Flash movie. Like, are we going to see a little bit more? Are we going to know a little bit more of what happened exactly after this scene? What happened between the events of the first film, or between the first film and the second one? And of course, what happened after the second one? Because we got Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, but those 2 films could be discarded. You know what I mean? So it's like, what happened afterwards? What else are they going to hint at? So, but yeah, this movie is definitely nostalgia to me, and it's probably the biggest reason of why I love it so much. But I realize I take it in for what it is, but I still love it, you know, because it's pure entertainment in Batman form. It's got some of the things that makes Batman great, and yet at the same time, it's missing so many things that makes Batman great. But because of the time that I saw it, the fact that it was the first, and the kind of impact it had, it really just started everything. I mean, what it did was truly ballsy, really. I mean, nobody wanted Michael Keaton to be cast as Batman. They were very skeptical, and there was backlash for after it was announced that he was cast. It was going to be a dark film, which was a risk, and they still went through with it, and they did it, and it ended up succeeding. And who knows? Maybe we wouldn't get so many films to take that similar kind of a risk, for better or worse, after that movie. If it wasn't for the example that this movie made. And then of course you've also got Prince that has done the soundtrack in this movie as well. So, but yeah, that's Batman 89. Batman 1989 will, to me, it's legendary, but with a lot of faults. But I think that's one of the things that actually makes it legendary to a certain extent. So, as far as pure Batman lore, of course, it's not the ideal Batman movie. But at the same time, you gotta appreciate it for what it is. And I appreciate it for what it is. So I hope you enjoyed watching this with me. If you watched along or listening to this commentary, but yeah, I always come back and I always watch this movie every so often. Except this time I hit the record button as far as the commentary goes. But I can talk about this movie for quite a lot longer if I wanted to. But yeah, the length of the motion picture itself will suffice. So what did you guys think about Batman 1989? Did you love it? Did you not like it? Was it bittersweet? You know, what do you think of Vicky? What do you think of Kim Basinger versus Nicole Kidman, as I mentioned early on in the film? But yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch and to commentate over it. And for anybody that ends up listening, I hope you enjoy listening and or watching along. For those of you guys that do that sort of thing. All right, have fun with the rest of your day, and I'll catch you later.